Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Pivotal Podspective. Thanks for coming back or joining us for the first time. This is, of course, the show where we chat to extraordinaires from all over the globe, from all around the world, and where they're going to come and chat to us all so we can learn a little bit about them and how they help themselves to pivot or how they've pivoted and things that we can all learn together so we can all pivot professionally and personally as well. I'm your host, Elliot Brown, with my wonderful co-host, birthday week co-host personage, Adrian Dorobantu.
Hello, everyone.
How are you today, my friend?
Hello, Elliot. Yeah.
Sorry? Thanks. How are you today?
Very well. I was traveling. I woke up at 6 a.m., traveling quite a lot. Just arrived back in my hometown about an hour ago, and I was looking forward to this show, so I'm ready to go.
You're pumped. Look at you. Yeah, you're full of enthusiasm and excitement. I don't know how you control yourself, Adrian.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we've got a brand new format this evening, with which we've told everybody about. But we are having two guests on this evening who are before we were in the green room, which is in essence this room, but behind the scenes before we started recording. These guests did not know each other, but we've familiarized ourselves now. So we have two business professionals or extraordinaires. One is Aden Nepom. Did I say that right? I'm going to mess the second name up now. Nepom. I do apologize. Aden Nepom. And she is an improv theatre performer, facilitator, keynote speaker, and coach. And she works very much on mindset. So very interesting to speak to Aden when she comes on. And then we've got Chris O'Connell as well. Now, it is national, maybe international suicide prevention day today. So quite a serious subject, but we don't like to get too serious. We're definitely going to be concentrating on the subject as well today. And Chris is an advocate. He's an ambassador for mental health. So we thought we'd tie the two nicely together. We're going to learn a little bit about both of the guests. Chris is, of course, I missed this out, a CEO and an NED, a NED. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's a non-exec director. And we're going to find out what that is if you don't know. And he's a business coach as well. So without further ado, let's welcome our guests. Good evening, guys.
Hi there.
Hi guys, how you doing?
We're very, very good. How are you?
Very well.
Yeah,
Good.
Doing great.
Yeah,
all things considered, what a year, huh?
Oh, listen, it's been. We love a challenge. We all love a challenge, don't we? And we're ever for learning as well.
A dear colleague of mine described this year as the least boring year that we've experienced in our lifetime. So I think that's a lovely frame.
That's a really good way
framing things up later. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice positive start to the show, Adrian?
It just shows that it's all about the perspective. Yeah, so.
Absolutely. Well, you, Aden, you're coming from Oregon in the United States of America, of course.
Yep, that's where I live, and I know I said backstage I wasn't going to talk about it, but it's like, for me, it's the elephant in the room. So I am going to mention that currently the county that I live in is on fire. And so we could potentially be evacuated.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't think it's likely. Where we live is like still miles away from where things are burning. And, life is for the living. So rather than focus on being worried, I decided to spend some time with you today talking about things that I love, which is positive mindset and making choices about the stimulus in your life and so on. So I did want to set a little context just so people know. I didn't want to deny the truth of the matter, but I'm not talking about wildfire today, though our conversation certainly might be on fire.
How did I know before we started recording that was going to get mentioned? Well, I'm not going to mention it. Hey, Chris, since you said I'm not going to mention it.
Definitely, yeah.
It's like that thing where you're like, don't say that word, don't say that word, don't say that word, shit. So I just, like that.
And Chris, you're in Bristol here in the UK.
Yeah, sunny Bristol. I was born in Slough actually, but I say West London. It sounds better.
Yeah, too late. You've said it now, haven't you?
Oh well, too late now. There's no wildfires here. Don't worry, it's fine.
No, I was going to ask you how the fire's doing over that side. Adrian is of course in the what town are you in what town?
Bayamare.
Do you know Bayamare? I've got to really write that down and practice that because I keep forgetting the name. And I'm coming from sunny Essex, Essex Business Radio, in the Essex Business Radio studio. So we're very international here today. I like that. I like that a lot.
Exactly.
Well, listen, we do want to talk about, the sort of, not necessarily talking so much about the suicide prevention side of it. It's Suicide Prevention Day today. And I found out that is this international or is it just sort of in the UK and America?
No, it's worldwide.
Yeah,
okay.
Worldwide.
Okay, perfect. Well, listen, as Chris, you've definitely got, want to be talking to some of the mental health and stuff. But first of all, let's find out a little bit about you, Aden, if that's okay. We're going alphabetically as we've decided before recording this show. Perfect. So, Aden, let us know about what you do and how you sort of help people to pivot, so to speak.
Yeah. So simply put, I help people communicate better and have more fun in the workplace. That's essentially, if I was going to sum it up into a sentence, that's the sentence. But my business, The Art of Change, was founded on this principle. My father founded this business, and it's now my business. But he's a naturopathic physician, and he noticed that a lot of his patients.
He's a what?
A naturopathic physician.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Which for those who don't know what that means, that's a doctor that is trying to look at the body holistically and address underlying root causes. And some of the philosophies of naturopathic medicine have been adopted by more allopathic medical doctors in recent years, like things like good nutrition, etc. But the health paradigm is about looking at the whole body and the cause of illness and trying to treat that rather than trying to treat symptoms. And so he started this business because he noticed a lot of his patients were coming in with diseases that were caused by stress. So digestive issues, skin issues, all kinds of ailments that were caused by stress. And one of the leading causes of stress is workplace disagreement in relationship, failing to express the thoughts that you're having on the inside of your head to the outside world. So his focus was on communication, and that remains a large piece of the Art of Change. I help people in leadership have better team dynamics through better communication. I help individual contributors do that through coaching. And in addition to that, as an improviser, as a professional performer, an award-winning improviser, I might add. Hello. I also have the ability to bring some of the training tools from that world that help with getting people get comfortable with the uncomfortable, be completely competent and confident in the face of the unknown. And so those mindset tools are incredibly helpful when you're adopting new communication strategies. So I work in both arenas with mindset and with communication. And I do it in a way that's typically quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I like that. It's putting a slightly different twist on things. I quite like the approach to that, and I can see where the performing side for confidence and things like that would definitely help on that side. It was sort of say performing wise, you're talking dancing, acting, and bits and pieces like that, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Well, allow me to tell you a little bit about my performance background.
Oh, here we go.
So as an improv performer, I do improvised theater. So some people do improv comedy, and I have plenty of background in that as well. But I also have a background as a singer and musical theater performer. So I do fully improvised, full-length musicals, and I do them in an incredibly geeky way. Right. My husband and I both do this. We're part of a theater group that puts on like improvised, almost parody musicals from common pop culture references. So for example, one of our most popular shows is USS Improvise, The Next Generation, the musical, through the Funhouse Lounge here in Portland, Oregon. And what that is we are dressed as and performing in character as, for the nerds who watch that show, William Riker. I often am Deanna Troi or Dr. Crusher or Dr. Pulaski, my personal favorite, the character everybody hated. Anyway, and what we do is we're doing a full-length, unscripted, completely unscripted episode of the show. So never been seen before, never to be seen again. And then we're doing that as a musical. So we're creating the choreography, the lyrics, the melodies and the harmonies. We're doing all of that in the moment as a rough draft live in front of the audience.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's some pressure. That's some pressure.
Or some freedom. It's all in how you look at things. For
Well,
me,
yeah,
it's
you know what? I like that. All the freedom. In fact, we were talking about it before the show that we don't script because that's the pressure. Whereas if you can be a bit more free flowing, then you don't get that.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. That's an interesting twist on things. So we'll definitely come back to that and find out a little bit more about that.
Sure.
And Chris, you are a CEO and you're a NED as well, NED, which is something that we've been wanting to talk about as well on the show, and get to know a little bit more about. I know quite a bit about this, and so does Adrian, but I think it's a great subject matter. In fact, there's been a lot of movement in this sort of NED and NED arena recently as well, I think. But yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do as well, my friend.
So yeah, I've got 22 years experience in recruitment. I started out a very large corporate recruiter as a resourcer, went my way up there, became the worldwide top biller. Really good. Became a manager and kind of knocked the doors off and really found recruitment a bit of a calling for me, which is great. Learned the art of kind of candidate control, networking, cold calling clients on the phone, and took it like a duck to water, which was great.
Oh, did you really? So you like a bit of cold calling on the phone?
Well,
that's like that's one of the tools, or one of the things that a lot of salespeople really don't like doing. It's a struggle. But you just took to that, did you?
Yeah, I think the market's changed away from that a little bit, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's a very kind of, if you've seen the film Boiler Room, a very kind of hardcore environment, shiny shoes, Ferraris, big ties, people like walking the walk. It was a very dynamic environment. And I was quite shy back then, and I'll talk about that as well, and how I kind of conquered that and sort of rose to the top. But after 5 years, I kind of woke up one day and thought, what the hell am I doing? I can do it for myself. So I set up a business in 2003. Got that to 80 staff, £25 million turnover. We won 3 offices. We won 14 industry awards.
Okay, cool.
So 3 Virgin Fast Track 100 awards in a row. So lunch with Richard Branson was great.
Wow.
3 best company awards at 3-star level. And that's all about our culture. So I'm more proud of that kind of stuff around, how we engage with our customers, how we engage with our colleagues as well. And it wasn't like a one size fits all approach. We're very in tune with motivations and drivers and understanding how each person ticks. So we manage the individual rather than the team. And that was really why we did very well. And then after about 9 years, just about to launch in Australia and Scandinavia, my business partner walked in one day and said he's had enough. He wanted to sort of move, leave the business. He just had his 3rd child, which is fair enough, which is difficult for me because we had to find a buyer. So I did a private equity deal, which was interesting, I should say.
Right. Okay.
Changed the dynamic of the business. Managed to get through that. Sold the business through that transaction. Then took 5 years out, and had some sort of mental health issues as well, which I'm happy to talk about and go back to my job on that. But that period of reflection was really good for me. It really kind of made me think around, what success is. And although that. You think that's quite successful, and it's really successful, but I wasn't really on the planet. What I mean by that is I don't think I had a purpose. So, the biggest watch, the next house, the next holiday was all well and good. But I wasn't really engaging with my team, and, I lost a lot of relationships with girlfriends and stuff like that, and my son, and it all kind of dawned on me that actually it's time to change tact a little bit. So what I do now as an NED and coach is go into businesses and coach and guide leaders around their purpose and why we're alive almost, and that's changing quite a lot with COVID. And how to get best performance out of people, you have to have the right purpose. So I walk into a business, they've got like purpose, integrity on the wall, but they don't know what it means. They can't even spell it. Do you know what I mean? I think where I'm winning at the moment, particularly on platforms like LinkedIn, is being a bit vulnerable, being open, telling my story, and winning hearts and minds that way, rather than just telling everybody how great I am, how many awards I've got. It's people are buying from people now, and people are seeing through that. And I'm really enjoying that. And finally, I'm an ambassador for mental health and recruitment, which is a brilliant initiative founded by a lady called Rhonda D'Ambrosio. And that is to really drive change and the stigma around mental health, not just in recruitment, but worldwide. And and people say that, there's 1 in 4 people that have it, but that's bollocks. Everyone's got a mind. Everyone's got some form of mental health. Everyone's got some form of mental health, and it's 5 people in my network committed suicide this month alone.
Wow.
So I'm really upbeat about that and passionate about trying to help as many people as I can.
Yeah, I mean, and you're absolutely right. I think we touched on this before we started recording. I mean, mental health, physical health. It's all things that we should need to be taken care of. I think a lot of people think that because you've got mental health that that you're mentally unstable. And that's I sort of definitely not so much now, but I think there was definitely that. It still hangs around a little bit like that. But and it wasn't until we did a show, I can't remember when it was, maybe a couple of months ago, and another guest was on and was talking about we all take care of our physical health. Well, you need to be taking care of that muscle as well, your mental health, your mind. And the pressure of business, all those bits and pieces, which it was such a really good reason to talk about this today. You have got to take care of it. Whether you would like to admit it or not, we all have down days. We have days where things are an absolute struggling. Really can't be bothered to do stuff. But you might push through it. You might not. It's good. It's okay not to. Yeah, that's a mental health strain. It's like you strained your ankle. It's similar, isn't it?
I think that's right, Elliot. I think, sorry to interrupt. I just, the idea that people are afraid to ask because there's still a stigma hanging around. They're afraid to ask for the help that they need when they need it. So rather than thinking of people as like, you're damaged goods for the rest of your life, go get fixed or don't. It's more that all of us have struggles. There's ups and downs for everybody. And at certain times, anybody who is a human being on this planet could use some help. So it's taking that stigma away from asking. Chris, I apologize. I think I interrupted you.
No, not at all. I mean, that's very much my thinking as well. I mean, to go back to my personal lived experience, I was to put my suit on and become this kind of stoic, kind of motivational person. And
you have to in business, don't you? You've got to brave it out, haven't you?
You do, but I think actually that's the issue now. I think actually that kind of style isn't working. I think the whole kind of tell not show and kind of dictatorial approach doesn't work anymore. What people want is a bit more down with the kids. Yes, you have to be the leader, but you have to relate to them and resonate with them. And the way that I've built businesses as well is kind of being a bit open and kind of saying, look, I'm struggling to an extent, not pouring my heart out, obviously, but just being a bit more on a level. And then what you get is that comes back to you, and then you build that trust, you build that purpose, and you drive the performance. And there's so many people out there that are wearing this mask, and having lived through it, you kind of see right through it. And actually. There's a lot of strength in reaching out to people and being open. So I think it's so important. Yeah.
Listen, talking has got to be the first thing. It's definitely one of the most difficult things to do when you're not in that right frame of mind. I've had days, I'll be massively open about it, in the last couple of years, in changing the way, what we're doing work-wise and, life just generally. And you get to the point where, your partner or the people close to you, they're sort of trying to get you to talk. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what you're going to say. I know you're being nice, but actually I'm closing myself off even more because you're trying to get me to talk. Now that's my experience and my reaction. I'm definitely working on myself more now and have done in the last month, as Adrian knows, taking a bit more care of my own, my routines and bits and pieces like that, and breathing and blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
But definitely doing that. And it's helping me to deal with things. Although I had a couple of bad days at the beginning of this week. Shocking. In fact, really bad. But you still crack on. And I know what you're saying, Chris, that isn't necessarily the way of dealing with it. But I am taking care of myself trying to do that. So that could have been worse. It could have floored me for a couple of days,
Well, I think, Elliot, I think that actually there's this idea that it's an either or, but actually it's really normal and common for people to have complex emotions happening simultaneously. Think about how patiently we describe this to our children when they have, their first goldfish died. This happened in our house a couple of years ago. Yeah. And my stepdaughter was like, on the same day, just horribly sad because Bubbles, the blue betta fish, was gone. And at the same time, she also was like, can I have dessert tonight? And it was confusing to want the dessert. And she still, 2 years later, still talks about Bubbles. And it's like, but also she runs instead of walks because she's filled with so much life and joy. And it's okay to have a bad day to acknowledge it as a bad day and crack on. It's okay to feel like you're not doing what you want to be doing, but you're doing something. It's okay to reach out for help. Like, all of these things are okay. Emotions are complex. Our choices about the actions that we take, there's room there. That's where I think the growth happens, is like, how do we want to make our choices? What actions do we want to take based on the types of feelings that are showing up? Recently my mother was sharing with me some of the complex emotions that she's feeling. We're getting ready to move her to our area so we can all be closer during this time. And, she's simultaneously feeling afraid to leave where she's been for the last, long number of years, and all of that familiarity. She's afraid to take that leap of faith and change and come closer to us. And at the same time, she desperately wants to be here and be close to us and be able to participate in family dinners and watch her granddaughter grow up. So, but she was like beating herself up about it. She was afraid that anytime she expressed this fear of leaving what she's familiar with behind, that she was being ungrateful. And I was like, what are you talking about? Those things can exist simultaneously in you, and it's normal and it's fine. And I think the more we give ourselves and each other permission to just, be human beings on the planet with our complex choices, lives, emotions, and whatever, the better off all of us will be.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, without a shadow of a doubt. And Chris, when you're working with your clients and bits and pieces, or with your people you work with, whether they become friends or colleagues, you probably do this in your day-to-day life as well, as I'm sure Aden, you do. We all use our practices with people we know, just because that's the way we are, I think, as well. That all comes under that coaching and consulting and mentoring life. That's so we're givers, aren't we? I mean, Adrian and I spend a lot of time with people, and just to get to know them, and whether you're going to work with them or on a personal level. Do you sort of feel that you have because of your experience, Chris, that you use certain things to sort of get across maybe processes or ways of doing things in their business or in their personal lives as an entrepreneur, to negate, or not, maybe negate's not the right word, but to sort of steer around a potential, mental health strain, so to speak?
Well, I go into a business and do the usual kind of growth, professional development, KPIs, operational stuff, and I think that's half the battle. So for me, what I'm finding is a lot of companies in my field, they'll hire on experience and skills and fire on behaviors and attitudes. So it's really important to understand, I think, that stuff outside of work, like who you're socializing with, what content you're absorbing, what diet, what social life you've got, all that kind of stuff can have a dramatic effect on performance. So you need to get under the skin of that as well. So I'll go into it and speak to a CEO and ask him stuff like, when was the last time he cried, and things like that. And they're like, initially like, what the fuck you asked me that for?
Yeah.
and then they eventually get it, and they really kind of understand, and then they start to think back, oh my God, I used to manage someone like that in a really kind of stern way. And it kind of breaks down the mask and all that kind of stuff. And they realize that you can have like a great brand, a great operation, a great, have a table tennis table in there and beanbag and all that kind of stuff, But if you're not in tune with your own kind of stuff that's gone on outside of work, how can you embed that into your staff? And then how can they embed that into their service offering? So it's going of the days of the 100 cold calls, People are winning business. It's people's people. So again, on the platform of LinkedIn, I haven't made a cold call for God knows how long. I do stories and nurture clients, do videos, and be a person, and it's working wonders. So I think that's how the landscape's changing a little bit in business and in life, because I do think business and personal is becoming one thing.
It is
in COVID as well.
Definitely it's becoming one thing. I mean, you have to, I think, as a modern entrepreneur, I mean, before, I think you better go to an office and go and do your 18 to 20 hours, and then you'd go home and things. Now you can, because of technology, we can sort of mix the whole lot up. That gives added pressure, though. That means it's almost never goes away. I actually put my phone off now, which I can't believe I'm saying, but at night I'll put it into airplane mode. Listen, I probably don't put it on for as long as I should do. My coach said I should probably switch it on at a certain time in the morning. It doesn't. It does go on when I wake up. So I've quite extended it to giving myself those 2 hours initially, but I don't look at it like I would have done before. So, you know, that, and you know, the reason I'm saying that is because, you know, I had constant pressure on me, and I think it's a great thing to, if you can have that sort of, what's the word? If you could do that, then you do take a little bit of pressure away. Whether it really plays on your mind while you're asleep because it's there, I don't know. But I think it's a psychological thing, isn't it?
Although when it comes to that pressure, Elliot, a lot of times when I'm working with clients, we talk about what are this, you know, the assumptions, what are hidden rules, and the assumptions are huge territory for hidden rules, because where is that pressure coming from? I know I feel a lot of pressure, but it's 100% self-imposed pressure. The reality is, if I don't meet a deadline, I'm letting myself down. And, you know, and of course, I'm also letting listeners down and all of that. But I think that they also are more forgiving than we would be for ourselves. So, you know, I'm going to hold myself accountable. But I think when it comes to my clients, they feel such a tremendous amount of pressure, and there's plenty of pressure to be had. Deadlines, workload, fires to put out, etc., in the workplace. That being said, most of that sense of like the world closing in on you comes from that self-imposed sense of needing to, for lack of a better way to say this, being someone you think you're supposed to be instead of being the person you are. And if you can let go of some of your assumptions about where that pressure is coming from, notice what you own, and then make a few slight adjustments to, like, you know, it sounds so woo. It sounds very feminine, actually, to say, like, be forgiving of yourself, but these things matter.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think that the internal narrative we have in our heads, I mean, our biggest competitor is ourselves, I think, sometimes. And what I've learned from my own research and my lived experiences, that narrative in our heads isn't necessarily our own thoughts. It's brought in from hereditary stuff, some stuff we've absorbed.
Without a shadow of a doubt, definitely.
You know what I mean? And that's why it's important to actually kind of, I talk to myself quite a lot and look at myself in the mirror, and people up until recently, you think I'm mad, but actually it's, you know, come on, Chris, you're all right, mate. And that negative chatter, you can turn it and flip it on its head. And it's vital that, you know, the little tweaks, like, you know, not looking at my phone in the morning, doing 10 minutes of breathing, going out for a jog, can change and transform my mindset. You know, it's unbelievable what your thoughts can do, good and bad, I think.
It's amazing. And the stories are amazing too. The stories we fabricate, the stories we tell ourselves and then buy into. I think Brene Brown has become quite popular for saying, like, what's the story I'm telling myself? But I had a client a few years ago who came to me, and she was having trouble landing a job, and she got a really specific piece of feedback, which is why she came to me, because of my experience on stage. She got this really specific piece of feedback in an interview where somebody said, your story sucks and you need a better story. They just said that. Right. And here's why they said that. This person had experienced a whole lot of personal tragedy in between starting grad school and finishing grad school. And then after grad school and trying to job hunt, there was another gap. So in trying, you know, when you go into an interview, people typically will ask you to explain those gaps. And the story she was telling was you know, I lost my dog and I lost my house and you know, like that kind of classic country story. And the thing is without being disingenuous, without being a liar or fabricating any information, she could view that story from a completely different lens, in which she is the hero of her own story. And what an amazing story to say, I started grad school and then I took hit after hit after hit, and despite that, I doubled down. I achieved, you know, excellent marks. I came out top of my class. And then I was hit again, because life is like that. It's unpredictable. Yeah. But now here I am, and I'm passionate about this work, and I'm excited to be it's like a totally different story than like, well, I had to take a few years off because blah, blah, blah. So we worked on crafting the story through a different lens. And I think all of us could benefit from doing that in any circumstance, like any place you catch yourself telling yourself a story where you're like the victim or the loser, or not matching up to somebody else's glowing whatever you think they're achieving. And you know, we forget everybody else is telling themselves those stories too. But you know, make yourself the hero of your own story. Why not? What have you got to lose?
Yeah.
Again,
Definitely.
I think that's spot on. I mean, I've had a lot of trauma. People have had worse trauma, but I've had a lot of losses in my life, and at no point do I think I've made myself be a victim or look for sympathy. And I think if you sometimes the trauma that you have or the adversity you have, you can actually, as you say, you can. Well, I see it as a gift now. At the time, it was horrific, but I've used that in a different way, as you said, and kind of repurpose that and say, well, what can I do? What have I learned from that? And also, what can I give back to other people by showing up, by telling people about it? It doesn't just help them; it helps me. And I just think there's a lot of power around. A lot of people can sit in that victim state, and it's easy to say just jump out of it, but with a different mindset, different people around you, you can use your trauma to really become a much stronger person and actually use the adversity to help a lot of people.
Yeah. Sorry, Aden, but that transcends across just life in general anyway. Surrounding yourself with the right people and the right mindset, whether you think you have mental health strains or not, whether there's pressures from earlier in life or whatever they are, or whether you think you're okay. I mean, just surrounding yourself with those right people and doing those things in your morning. You said about the breathing techniques and bits and pieces of that. I'm a firm believer in that now, and I never was before. In fact, I used to get stressed regularly. Friends used to call me, I'm angry, and not in an angry way, because I'm always laughing, but I'd also be quick to bark if I'm driving or just things like that. And you're borderline on all the time on that teetering between being okay one minute and actually the next minute is completely ruining everything. And I think it was a guest we had on a couple of weeks ago that said, but if you do these things to prepare yourself and make yourself feel better, and just work on yourself a little bit more, if you're up here rather than being here, when you do get hit with something, and every day we get hit with shit as entrepreneurs and business people, always rarely do you go through, a week or a month where you don't get something that's going to hit you. At least it takes you down a couple of pegs, not takes you down from here, which takes you down to the bottom. And that's a pretty cool cool way of thinking about it, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's on top of that, looking after yourself is the right thing. You can then look after others. But I think one thing that helped me as well is kind of the whole serving others thing. So reaching, like, what can I do today? One thing, like call a friend I haven't called before. Just stuff like that, where you're putting others first, can actually really get you out of a negative state of mind as well.
It's hugely effective, and it's effective in large ways and in small. So, like, for example, I love talking about when people walk into meetings. They often go into a meeting or get on a Zoom call, your 7th Zoom call of the day, and your internal mantra, your involuntary mantra is so right. You're going well, this is going to suck. I hate that I have to do this. Those are the kinds of messages. Or like, why am I even needed in this meeting is a really common one. Like, you've agreed to be part of a meeting that you think you don't need to be at. So you've chosen to waste your time, then you're resentful that you're wasting your time. So those are the things that just show up, and it's a bit involuntary. It's natural reflex. But if you can pause and shift your focus to being of service, Chris, I'm 100 million % in agreement with you, which is not even a percentage. That
I'll take that.
100% or bust. But it makes a huge difference to shift your focus to others. It's one of the top things when it comes to presentation skills that I give clients. It's like, you're not sitting there presenting going, oh, I hope they like me. Oh, I hope it's good enough. That's going to be a pretty predictably bad presentation. The more that you can pay attention to your audience and go, what do they need? Are they getting what they need right now? What might I give them that they're not getting? What questions do that, and then there's so as you're walking to that meeting, check yourself, give yourself a more helpful mantra. As you're presenting, check yourself, give yourself a more helpful mantra. And anytime you can make it about serving others, you'll have a huge improvement in your own performance without having to try.
I think you're right. I think, Elliot, you mentioned you've got a coach. I think that's what you said. I mean,
Which I had one a couple of years ago. I hadn't done for a long time because I just didn't. And then I got to a point where I thought I needed some help to work on myself. But there can also, he's internationally known speaker as well. And he's going to be coming on the show at some stage. And so I want to work on myself before working on some of the business elements and things as well. I'm not afraid to talk about it because I think, we should all have. I've had a lot of people up to turn to, but there's a point that these friends that are mentors to me, and I mentor them. There's a certain point you get to a level where you need something outside of that they don't know you, and so it's quite important to have that, I think.
I think that's right. I mean, who trains the trainer? Who leads the leader? Who coaches the coach? So, I'm a coach. I've got 2 coaches. I probably need another 3. There's so much stuff I've got to do, and I think that's the misconception. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, what title you've got. Everyone needs guidance and support, and that's another tip, if I may, is like in America, it's normal to have a therapist, isn't it? I mean, over here, it's still frowned upon. It doesn't have to be a therapist, coach, or someone.
Oh, is it? Yeah, well, it's totally Well, I don't want to say it's totally normal over here, but it's common. If that makes sense. I think there's still a stigma around asking for help, and at the risk of sounding gendered, it does seem to be less common for men who perceive themselves to be particularly masculine to ask for that help.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We've just got a whole weird thing in the UK about consultants and coaches. Anyway, it's not one of the easiest things to sell. If we wanted to sell into the American market, I'm sure Chris, Adrian, and myself, we'd absolutely kill it. In fact, there's people that have said off the back of doing podcasts that let's look at how we can do something together. But you don't get that in the UK so much. There's not that sort of respect. It's but there's a lot of shit coaches and consultants out there.
Well, that's true here too. Literally anybody could hang the sign coach on their door and sell business, and whether they're getting successful outcomes or not doesn't matter, which is a bummer. That being said, I personally am such a huge fan of coaching, and this now has turned into a sales pitch for coaching. But I think it's important to make a distinction between coaching and therapy when you're looking to hire a consultant for your personal mental health, which is another way to look at that. Therapy often, not always, looks backward, they're trying to identify root causes. And there's some benefit to that, but there's some danger there as well, because you can get stuck in a loop where you're just sort of like re-triggering the response to trauma, whatever it is. I've seen this happen with people I care about deeply, where it seems like therapy is 2 steps forward, 7 steps back in some ways.
Sometimes I think you can get that. You seem to move forward in a few sessions. And I mean, I'm not afraid to admit that a number of years ago, I wanted to deal with some shit from my past that were in my cupboard that was locked away in those boxes. And the first session was shit, because you don't come away from it feeling anything. Then you sort of go, well, I'm going to go back again. And then this is my experience. And then 2 or 3 sessions, then 4 or 5, and then 6 or 7, and you think, I'm not getting anywhere. I seem to have taken a few steps back. Now,
so coaching, having that individual consultant is a lovely way to look at that, because what consultants do is they come in and they help you upgrade your systems. They help you upgrade your communication skills. They help you upgrade a lot of things. And it's the same as an individual consultant as a coach. They're going to help you develop strategies and techniques so that you can move forward to what you want rather than moving away from what you're afraid of.
And ways to cope with things as well, whether it be a business, decision, or putting some planning in place, preparation. And we all know that planning to prepare and preparing to plan, and and the old analogies. But and it's true. It genuinely is true. If you don't plan, then that's where you put undue pressure on yourself. And I've fallen foul on that. I'm sure all of us here have. Adrian, have you've fallen foul of planning and sort of beating yourself up by doing stuff at times?
That's a constant battle, and I think all of us have it. Even if you don't do it for 3 months, you're gonna get it at some point, and it's gonna come. And talking about coaches, I agree. People should have one, but in the same time, depend at which point are you in your life. You also need to be prepared and know how to choose a coach, right? So it's very difficult to get the right one from the first time, so maybe you need to do some preparation in order to make sure that you get the right person.
It's just like looking for a doctor. You should have a list of questions, and I don't think people do this when they look for their doctor either, but I do. But I think it's important. You should know what you would want to get out of it, and then you should be talking to people who will give you honest answers. I've said it a million times. If I am not a fit for someone, I will be very honest about that, and then I will try and point them towards somebody that would be, because to me, having people make progress towards their goals, make progress towards their success, make progress towards feeling like they are learning something new, and having new tactics and strategies to live a better life, that matters to me so much more than did I get the business. And you know, it sounds really self-sacrificial, but I don't think it is, because I think it benefits. If the industry benefits, I benefit. If the relationship benefits, I benefit. So there's some self-serving there too, you know, since this is a business conversation, you should be honest sometimes about the balance there, you know.
I think there's a lot more collaboration as well. So in my recruitment sector, up until recently, every single agency would be quite insular. They would do their own marketing. They wouldn't talk about competitors, or they'd slag competitors off, or whatever.
Yeah, that's a UK thing as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's very UK with businesses. They're really insular like that. You know, it's not like some of the. I mean, this is not as big a thing in the UK as it is in the States. Podcasts haven't been until more recently, because they're shit scared of saying something somebody else might pinch. But there's a lot more confidence in America, because it's a way bigger market. There's room for everybody, and I think that's where the difference is. Would you agree, Chris?
I think so, but I think actually the tide is changing. This is what I'm seeing and witnessing and trying to educate around. If on LinkedIn, I mentioned it again, you know, if I see someone in my space doing something good, I'll comment on it, I'll share it, I'll say, well done, you know, and that abundance comes back to you, doesn't it? And also if I pull a piece of business that I'm probably not as good as someone else that I can deliver on, I'll pass it to someone else. And it's like, that's what it's all about. It's about collaboration, learning. And honestly, that approach, is the way to go, and I'm finding that is a lot of people are actually understanding that a lot more, and that's a good thing that's come out of COVID. There is a bit more understanding around. Come on, we can do this together, and sometimes giving something away, not expecting something back, is a good thing anyway. But do you know what I mean? It's just like, you know,
it's service all over again. It's serving others. It's taking the emphasis off of, am I okay? Do people like me? Am I succeeding? And putting the emphasis on, what do people need right now?
Yeah.
But even internally, in some of the businesses I've worked, like a consultant will pull a piece of business, and that person probably isn't capable of delivering it, but he'll keep that business for fear of, you know, giving it to his mate who would go top of the board, and the whole business loses. It's, you know, just stupid. And all that stuff is all coming out now. It's all quite interesting. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're absolutely right about the collabing as well. We, you know, Adrian and I have seen this, and we're collabing on stuff as well, and that sort of brought us closer together. And now we're doing, you know, co-hosting this together, aren't we, mate? But we've seen like a community in essence, and there's. I think there are a few levels there, I would say there is just in general life anyway, where there are certain personalities, and it definitely seems to be a thing in the podcasting community in the world that, you know, people want to come on and do, you know, shows like this and other podcasts and all of that. You know, you're using video, Aden, you've got your own podcast, and Chris, you're thinking of doing, because we actually realized that we can have a chat for an hour. We can get to know people on a level that you normally wouldn't. Without meeting them. And so, you know, this whole technology and what's happened in the world this year has sort of brought a certain level of personality and business acumen that are combined to bring them together. And I'm not saying that we haven't had a few guests on that they don't have the business acumen they thought they did, which is something we talk openly about. Because you know, a lot of people think they do, and they want to become a bloody coach because they've been on a call. And we keep talking about this, but otherwise, you know, there's definitely become a community, and I think that's a good thing this year. You know, and that's in general life as well. I think there's become more of a, strangely, people further afield, there's a community rather than when you walk out the door and you can't bloody well go near anybody. I mean, I'm not going to go into COVID because it's not my bag. But that's weird, isn't it? That, you know, we'll probably be closer, Aden, than I will be going into town to talk to people, you know? Bizarre. But it's
that is a wild part of reality these days. Yeah.
So the world has become smaller. So that's good. That's really good.
Not just that, I think also it's easier because I think you can connect way better with people that have the same interest, you know, like you, or talking with the relevant people rather than actually, you know, when you go out in town or you go into a pub, obviously you're going to meet loads of people that might not be that relevant to you. Same with the networking events. But with what we do now and what's happening right now, I think it's way easier to connect with like-minded people.
Yeah,
I think that's right. I mean, talking about productivity, my productivity is probably 20 times more than what it was before. You can arrange a Zoom so easily, and it's just, honestly, you know, I can do 8, 9, 10 meetings a day, and then I'll chat to someone on Zoom, and then that person's got 6 people I want to connect to, and I've got 6, and it's actually easier to actually build a community in business and in different groups as well. You know, I've got different friends groups on WhatsApp. So obviously it's different, but there's a hell of a lot of positive you can take out of it, actually, I think. And,
I want to come back to this idea of pressure that we were talking about a bit ago. It occurs to me as you're talking about building this community, and there's a lot of positive to take out of things. I want to sort of acknowledge that in addition to pressure people may be feeling at this time, to find something positive. So there's this like catch-22. There's a lot of positivity to take. There's a lot of growth that's happening. But also there's a lot this weird thing people do to themselves where they're like, if I'm not doing it great right now, then I suck. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge, because of, the theme of this conversation where we started around preventing suicide and mental health. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that piece of reality that for some people right now, they're not taking that positivity out. And here we are saying like, there's a lot of positivity to be had. And we're saying it because it's true. And also we want to be encouraging. But for those of you who are struggling in that way, I do want to give you one thing that I think is helpful, which is to get out of the past, get out of the future, and get into the present moment. Because at least for me, any times that I've been particularly afraid, which I mentioned at the beginning of this, there's reason for me to be afraid today. Last night I was worried. Today I'm not. Today I'm not, even though theoretically it would be more dangerous today. The reason that I feel that way is I took some time to be in the present. I made a purposeful choice to stop, breathe, and take stock and go, so far, so good. Because sometimes so far, so good is good enough. And if you can be like, okay, I'm just gonna, this is still here, I'm still here, that's great. And when it comes to business, if you are still alive, there is still opportunity for you to have. So even if you've been laid off of a job, there's still opportunity for you to have, and it's there for you when you are ready to have it. So if you need to take a moment to be present with yourself first, that is a-okay.
Well said.
For sure, definitely. Adrian, I mean, you've been very quiet over there this evening, soaking it all in. We've talked about our own personal struggles and things over time, haven't we? And sort of preparing and getting things. Now you're settled into being back in Romania, you're definitely your life is improved already, isn't it? In the short space of time, taking stock. I mean, the UK is a particular type of place to be and work and live, but I think moving there has been a great move for you as well, hasn't it? Things have changed for you, haven't they?
Yeah, well, for everyone that wants to know things, it's I've been, for anyone that actually doesn't know me, I've been in the corporate world for a while, where I wasn't happy. It was nice in the first year probably, but not so much after that. But I still continue to work just because of the money. And then I realized that money doesn't really bring any happiness into my life. And I said, okay, let's see exactly what makes me happy and try to get into those things. And be careful, everyone. People are going to tell you, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you want to do that? Right? You have a good job. You have whatever you want. You have money. That's what most people, resumes to. But then just stop listening to them and do whatever. Try to experience new things, right? Or if you have a calling, I always want to come back to Romania. For me, Romania was never a bad place. There were other things that maybe kept me a bit away from Romania, and I don't regret at all the fact that I've been gone for 10 years out of, in UK, because I've made good connections. I learned new things and I got skills that probably I would have not got them in here. So there's absolutely no regrets over there. But I always had that desire in me to come back to Romania and maybe help others, and give back and try to do something, where I see there's a lack of it. And since I've done it, it's just, I have absolutely no complaint. And even though people that see me here, even now, actually, when people ask me, hey, mate, how are you? I'm right, I'm just on holiday. I don't really tell them I'm back for good, just because if I tell them I'm back for good, they say, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you go in places? You came back. And, and they start telling me so much bullshit, like how bad is in here and all that. I said, for me, it's good. It's what do you want me to tell you, right? It's just the way how you see things, because that's what most of them, and I'll give an example. So they say, yeah, it's bad in here. But I say, okay, you tell me it's bad, but actually, since I've seen you last time, you got married, you have kids, now you have your own house, which is a proper house, maybe a $150,000 property. You have a car, you've been to about 3 holidays per year. Why the hell is so bad? I honestly I didn't got all that back in UK, so you're telling me it's bad in Romania?
True, man. It's just that gratitude, isn't it? Having been thankful for what you got, not what you haven't got. As simple as that, isn't it? It's very good.
That's actually what my necklace says. So, so this is my mother is a jewelry designer. I'll just plug her jewelry here unexpectedly. This was not, but it wasn't my plan. I wear this necklace all the time. On one side it says the secret to life, and on the other side it says give thanks for everything, which is not always an easy thing to do. No. But having that attitude of gratitude, it sounds cheesy, but it has been immensely powerful for me in my life to look for the lessons to be grateful for in the painful experiences, and to look for the joyful things to be thankful for, because there are lots of those out there. So there's always something to look for, and so anyway, I love this necklace. I love that you brought up gratitude. I think it's huge.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a great sort of word to sort of bring the show to a sort of a crescendo. But it is. I think gratitude is. It's not something that I really taken a lot of notice of for years. It's recently I definitely have even wake up in the morning and think, even if it sounded silly the first few times, I'm grateful for waking up. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm in a big bloody comfortable bed, and I'm in the house I'm in, and those things that we just take for granted. And it's weird because it's only language. You're only telling yourself something, but it does set you up differently for the day, doesn't it? Like, I'm blown away by these simple actions. Adrian, you saw a massive change in me when I started this a month ago, and I started changing things, didn't I? It's dead easy to slip off the wagon, guys. I'm not gonna say you do it every day.
When it's a continuous process, isn't it? Yeah.
When you are a mentor or a speaker that speaks on stage, and you do these things, and you have hordes of clients, and you've worked with people for 20 years. That's what you do day in, day out. So don't, and I'm sure, Aden, you have your ways of doing it. And Chris, you have your ways of doing things with your clients. And you'll make it seem pretty easy. And you want your clients and the people to make it habitual, because that's where you start getting the change. And I can tell you right now that a month in, I had 2 really good weeks, and I've slipped right off the wagon, and I'm trying to get back onto it again. But
actually, I think Chris and I both do this because, Chris, I sleuthed your LinkedIn profile, but I think we're both pretty honest about it. Actually, it takes work. It's not easy to make these changes. It is not automatic. It is not instantaneous.
It's ongoing, isn't it? It's easy to sing when you're winning. It's when you're in the shit that it's hardest. But it can catch you out at any time as well. You can be like happy as Larry, and then something out of the blue can come in, and you're fucked. So you've always got to check yourself. But don't beat yourself up as well. You're going to have bad days, and what I found is the odd bad day here and there. It's like, go with it. You might as well stick with it, and you get through it. It's like a cloud; it passes. It's not permanent. It's something that's the problem. Sometimes you get in a bad state, and you think that's it for the rest of my life. And it's like, actually, and wake up tomorrow and you're happy as Larry again.
It's just right now. It's just right now. Everything is just right now. And, emotions are complicated. We talked about that before. So, if you're trying to make big changes, you have to have room in your brain and your heart for, I'm going to keep this practice of gratitude going, but instead of going for toxic positivity where you're just lying to yourself, you have to also be grateful for your honesty as a human being on the planet, and be like, what I'm not grateful for? This ant problem in my kitchen, or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Positivity. There's a fucking phrase. I mean, it's true as well.
Have you not heard that?
No, I haven't heard that.
Oh, it's a thing.
So true. The whole lying to yourself business. I mean, I'm not being funny. How many people do we all know that do that? In fact, I don't probably have much to do with those people anymore, because I don't have time, to be fair, or the energy to be trying to take them in other ways. And is that wrong or right? I don't know. That's my choice. But you're right. Toxic positivity. It's very, very true.
Because not everything is awesome, but there is so much awesomeness to take from most things. And I think that I think that it's important to make that distinction. Like, I'm an incredibly optimistic person. I've always been that way, and I'm fairly buoyant. But that doesn't mean I haven't had moments in my life where I experienced tremendous loss, where I had to grieve something, where I lost a job. I mean, I lost a job. Everybody's had these moments in their life, and it's normal. And to not acknowledge that there's pain involved is redonkulous. So, it's okay to mourn your losses and have that grief. And it's okay to have a moment where you're like, you know what, I hate everything right now. And then take a breath and regroup and see if you can find a lesson to be learned, or cut yourself some slack and find the lesson to be learned tomorrow. But make a commitment to yourself to find it later.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
But is it not easy to sleep sometimes? Like sleep on the other side, I think it's a very fine border of not doing that too often and then become way more comfortable with that. Because I've seen people who said, yeah, fuck, it's all right to do this. It's all right for this to happen. Or it's all right for me to not be productive today because I have a bad day. But they do that and they just get stuck in that loop over there.
Yeah, you still have to back things up with action. You can't allow yourself to stay, for too long without it having consequences. It's a choice. Everything's a choice. So if you do choose to stay there, then you're experiencing that. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned from spending 3 weeks in the gutter. But it's, it's like...
I think so. I think sometimes when, you get a kick in the whatever, it can actually help you. It can actually help you. At a time, it feels like shit, but, it can actually make you stronger. And it's about lessons. I don't see failures as failures. They're lessons, aren't they?
Definitely.
Well, if you have the right mindset. And also, it's about just checking in with as many people as possible and being open. If you're feeling down, share that. Don't put that inside you. So, just pick up the phone.
In improvisation, in the theater world and in improv training, we call everything that we work on, the skill sets that we learn to get comfortable with the uncomfortable and to be buoyant and to bounce off our failures and bounce up and dust ourselves off. All of that, we call those practices. And I do that with my clients as well, because that's exactly what they are. They're not finished products. You're not a finished product until you're gone, and even then you're back to the earth. It's like it's never change is constant. So allowing these to be practices, set these things up for yourself to feel successful, but to be acknowledge the reality of life as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we could talk about this for hours, to be fair. I mean, there's
I think so
many different elements, that we've sort of covered this evening. And in fact, my mum has been watching all the way through. I have to be honest with you, our actual viewers this evening have been a little low, but a lot of people catch this afterwards. A lot of people are catching this show, and we're going to be turning this into an audio podcast, which will be published in about a month as well. And there's going to be other ways of putting this up and getting this out there, because I think this is a great show. I love what we've covered, the topics we've covered. It's all about personal development and business as well, and in a mental state, and I think it's all very, very topical. I love it. But my mum has made a comment. She's going to bring her onto the screen now. Good evening, Elliot Adrian and guests. And then she said, "My goodness, you've hit on." My mum's Dutch, by the way, so this is double Dutch. Excuse the spelling. My goodness, you have all hit on so many subjects that I also have experienced. Definitely, I know what your life and you've been through, Mum. So I know that it's going to resonate with you, as I am sure there are subjects throughout what we've discussed today that are going to resonate with everybody at some stage. Listen, I've really enjoyed this evening. It's been the first time we've done it this way. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. And, really thank you, Chris, from coming on, and Aden from coming on as well. What time is it over in Oregon, Aden?
It's just about lunchtime.
It's just about lunchtime, is it? Well, it's nearly 8 o'clock in the evening here in the UK. Adrian is a couple of hours outside, so it's nearly 10 o'clock there, isn't it, Adrian?
Oof. Yeah, 10 p.m. Yeah.
Hey, listen, we moved the show from 9 p.m. So he was like, by the time we'd finished, it was like midnight for him, and he's like whining. It was like this,
That's normal, isn't it, for him?
But no, really, just genuinely, really, really intrigued. Sorry to hear, Chris. I mean, don't want to end on a sad subject, but it is, suicide prevention. Sorry to hear that, the experience that what you've gone through with people over, recently as well. and hoping that people can take something from this show. I'm sure Chris and both you and Aden, helping people with dealing with changing, whether it's the mental state, or whether it's preparing yourself by mindset, and combining the two as well. I think it's a great thing to do. So learn how to do that. And in fact, if people do want to find out how you help your clients with that and what you do, Aden, as we're going alphabetically down here, there, where can everybody find you, Aden?
So the thing that I'm most passionate right now about is the Changed podcast. So if you were going to look for one place, I'd just direct you to that. There are links to everything else there. So, you can find me if you want to find me in a personal, individual way. But certainly listen to the Changed podcast, which features it examines this question of what is change? What does that even mean to people, really? We use this big word to describe literally everything from changing our underpants to changing our lives. So what does that really mean to people? So people come on, guests that I invite, they're actors and authors, and I spoke with an immunologist a couple of weeks ago. So there's a lot of variety, telling stories of pivotal moments in their own lives and the lessons that they took from that. So it's if you're looking for something to help you think of ways to get unstuck, it might be helpful to hear some of these stories. And if you just like being uplifted, you'll enjoy the show as well. The Change podcast.
We like the sound of that. Any way to help us all pivot? That's what we're all about, definitely. And Chris, where can everybody find you?
I'd quite like to be on Aiden's podcast actually. After that, sounds amazing.
Chris, let's connect.
Let's do that. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but mainly on LinkedIn. And you can type my name in, Chris O'Connell. There's a 4-leaf clover next to my name, so you can't really miss it. I don't know why I chose that, but it stands out a bit. But LinkedIn, there's lots of stuff about me on there, so just check me out there.
Yeah, great stuff. Good. Well, if you drop us a link in the private, they can do the private chat, can't they, Adrian? You can do the private chat, can't you? If you drop a link in there, we can put it into this post, so it will show across all of the profiles that it can do. We're all, as whether you're watching or you're watching afterwards, and if you're watching live in future, let us know you are and give us some thumbs up and some hearts. If you're watching afterwards, then put hashtag. With the hashtag replay. Somebody actually did it today, actually, from yesterday's Adrian. So if you're watching that, then by that we've got those in the private chat. We'll drop those in as well, those links. But yeah, thanks very much, guys. Really, really appreciate you coming on and being our guinea pigs for the sort of the new format. I'm definitely would be interested in getting you both on at some stage. If you'd be happy to come on again and be a guest at some stage in the future.
Love to.
Sure.
Yeah, cool, great stuff. Well, listen, there will be a link around this somewhere, so you can check out both Chris and Aden, depending on what sort of help you need with yourself or your business, personally and professionally. And if you want to know what else is going on Essex Business Radio, you can pretty well catch us everywhere apart from Pinterest, which we're going to go on to, and apart from TikTok, which we're also going to get to. But otherwise, it's Essex Business Radio, apart from Twitter, which is Essex Biz, BIZZ. And of course, if you didn't know, you can go to YouTube, subscribe over there, smash the like button or whatever the hell it is you do to get alerted, along with Facebook as well. If you want to get on the show, then I absolutely urge you, because we've got loads of people lined up, loads of guests lined up of all walks of life, which is great. We're really excited to the guests we've got coming on, aren't we, Adrian? We're stoked by what's going on here.
Yeah, stoked is the right word.
If you do want to, then go over to the Essex Business Radio Facebook page and click on send message, and then get on a show. If you tap on that, it will take you through several questions, which Aden, you didn't. We had to go do an email because we got a messenger blocked for for a day by Facebook. But I think, Chris, you went through that.
In the Facebook jail, all right?
Yeah.
What was that? Sorry,
Chris, you went through the chat bot, didn't you? You used the chat bot to come on.
Yeah, I did actually. It was interesting. It was good. I got there in the end. It's becoming very prevalent, chat bots, aren't they? They're quite the in thing at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah. It's that easy way of getting people to do that and sort of almost becoming a virtual assistant. So we've got Elliot Bot that helps us out, as you know. So if you do want to get on the show, do that. But otherwise, come back and join us every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now, next Tuesday, we have. Oh, wait a second. I can't do that on there because I put it onto flight mode. 1 second. Next Tuesday, we do have a couple of guests coming on. Wow, this is really well organized. We have Klaas van Oosterhout, who's a very interesting Dutch businessman who basically helps out in funnels. So he works with funnels and very, very successfully as well, I believe. And Shannon Villabel, who I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest. But if you check us out next week, we're going to let you know who those guests are because we're just getting on top of getting this prepared, all right? So just bear with me. You know, we're renegade here, and who gives a shit, really, to be fair?
Love it.
I love how improvisational you are. It's delightful.
We're keeping it real. We're keeping it real. But check out Monday and Tuesday next week. So we'll be letting you know who's on the show. Tuesday, you'll see that coming up, and we would love you to join us. If you're hearing this on a podcast, of course, there are live shows going on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday across numerous profiles of Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and Instagram to come in the near future as well. Again, thanks very much, guys, for joining us, Aden and Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes,
Good.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Adrian Dorobantu.
Thank you, Mr. Elliot, and Aden and Chris. And you said the name right. It was Nepom.
Fucking hell. You've been falling asleep over there. What are you doing, dude?
I'm all right. I said it correctly.
Well, listen, thanks again for now. We're going to sign off. So we're going to sign off with the typical phrase. How does that go, Adrian?
I'm going to say ciao for now.
Brown cow.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.